Welcome to Margaret Hamilton Academy of JavaScript. Here's our homepage. We can use these links to navigate to our campuses view, our students view. We can click on a single student and see their information. We can add a new student with this form. We can also look at single campuses and see their information. And we can add a new campus with this campus form. And we can also go back to the homepage. So we have all those routes here. We're using React Router to be able to navigate to our different pages. You can see here all of our different routes to campus, student pages, and our home page. So let's look at our campuses first. So we'll go to campuses with our campus list view. This is a separate component. So we have campus components and student components all separated out. And I'm using Redux here to maintain the states of our campuses. So as you can see, we don't have a state listed here. It's being maintained through our store. So in our campus list, we are, so the way that we're getting our campuses is first we're rendering, some initial render. And once we have something on the page, then we'll do our component did mount function that will run. And it's going to call this fetch initial campuses function that we're getting through our props. And so if we go down here, we're seeing, again, since we're using Redux here, we're getting our state and our potential actions through props. And since we have two different actions, we've got a little subcategory here, actions, with our two separate actions. So as you see above, we're finding this in this .props.actions.fetch initial campuses. And so here, fetch initial campuses is just a function that is going to call another function, that's going to dispatch some sort of action. And we know we're using Redux because we're using dispatch in order to actually change our state. We know that's the only way that we're calling actions that can change our state. And in this case, we're calling this fetch campuses function. So let's look at where this fetch campuses function comes from. Within our reducers in our index.js, we're going to see all of our action types and our action creators. So we have a got campuses action type, along with a couple others that we'll look at later. And that is along with our got campuses action creator, which again is just a function that takes campuses and then it's returning an action object of the type got campuses with campuses, which in this case will be an array of all of our different campuses. And so in order to section out our asynchronous functionality here, we're going to pass this into a thunk. So we'll scroll below and find our fetch campuses thunk, and there we go. That is the function that we saw before that is being called by our fetch initial campuses function. So this is a thunk, or a thunk creator, and it's going to return a function that will actually do our Axios request. And again, we're passing it through a thunk because this is asynchronous. And so in this case, we're just awaiting an Axios.get request that will go to our API/campuses route. And that's going to give us a response, and the data of that response will be our campus list. And so once we have that campus list, then we can actually call our action got campuses with that campus list. And again, we're seeing got campuses here is going to take campuses, so that's our campus list now. And we can dispatch that action. And so let's look now all the way back at our server routes. So we can see API/campuses and what's happening with our server. First, we'll look at our index, and we just have our router set up here, but we've got campus routes and student routes, so I sectioned those out into two different sections. So let's look at our campuses routes, and we have first our router.get, that's just going to go to /API/campuses. And so within here, we've got a try-catch block, and we're doing an async function where we're awaiting all of our campuses here. So we're taking our campuses model, which we haven't looked at yet, but we can peek at in a second, and we're finding all of the campuses. And we're doing an eager loading here because I know that when we actually click on a campus, we want to be able to see what students are there. And so instead of doing 2 different GET requests, we can just do those simultaneously with eager loading, and we can say campuses.findAll, and then we can include our students model, so we also have the students that correspond to each campus. This becomes important later in my specific functionality because for the campus list view and the individual campus view, I actually ended up using the same action creator, which is our fetch or get campuses or fetch campuses action creator. So with the initial thinking being when we fetch all of our campuses, right, I want to get my entire list of campuses. And then for an individual campus, I know I can just use the same thing and I can get all of the campuses, and then I can just pull out the one specific campus that I want to view it. Thinking forward on a larger project, I think I would probably have a separate fetch initial or fetch individual campus action creator, because I wouldn't necessarily, in a very, very, very large database, want to be pulling all of the campuses every time I just want an individual one. All of that to say that this becomes important when I'm fetching all of my campuses to have the students, because when I do my single campus view, I want to be able to show the students there. So we now have that route in the back end, and then again, we're catching our errors and nexting them if there is a potential problem. And we're sending back our campuses as JSON, so we have easy access to that array of campuses. And so now let's just quickly look at the model so we can see what we're actually fetching. So here, campuses is a model where we are, each campus is going to have an ID, a name, it'll have an image with a default value here, an address and a description. Most of these are necessary and should not be empty. Our image is always going to be a URL, and that's about here. And our ID is going to auto increment for us, and that'll be our primary key. And so let's go back now to our campuses view, and let's see how we're actually viewing all of these campuses. So we now know we're getting them from the database. We know we can, let's get rid of this. So we know we can actually fetch them using our thunk, and now let's see where we're actually seeing them in our campus list view. So here, once we have fetched our initial campuses, we know now within our props, we have our campuses as a prop. So here, campuses can be this.props.campuses. Now we have an array of campuses, and all we need to do is create an unordered list where we're mapping over that array, and for each campus, we'll give it a unique key of that campus's specific ID, and we'll link to, we can ignore this, sorry about that. And so we'll list the campus's name and the campus's image, and then the image and the name will both be wrapped in a link that will go to that single campus's specific view. So you can click on either the picture or you can click on the name, and either way it will take you to that specific campus's view. And then finally we have a button at the bottom, and this button is going to be our remove function. So let's look at that, because we could look at our student views, but our student, we can imagine the functionality working very similarly in our student list view and our single student view. So let's just look at these buttons now where we can remove, and then we can look at our form where we can add. So we see we have a remove button, and it's going to take an on-click function. So when we handle click, all we're doing is we're taking the campus ID, which is going to be the event.target.id where we're clicking, and we are going to call an action remove specific campus where the ID is that campus ID. And so again, if we go down, now we're looking at this second action that we have in our props, remove specific campus, which is dispatching a remove campus action with the specific campus. So we can quickly just look at that action in action creator. So we have delete campus is our action. We're seeing delete campus takes a campus It's of type delete campus, and it holds that one specific campus. And we can look at the thunk here, remove campus. We're seeing, we're dispatching an action where we're doing an axios.delete now of that specific campus, and then we're giving it a piece of data with that campus. And in this case, it's that campus's ID. And we are just going to call delete campus with that specific removed campus. So let's see that functionality in action. We have this school for lasers, no students registered, pew, pew, pew. I think we can get rid of that school. So it's gone. And now, without even reloading the page, that campus is completely gone, and we can see within our database if we refresh our Postico. So it's already gone. Oh, actually, there it is. Let's refresh. Okay, and we don't see school for lasers anymore, or whatever that was called. And so let's see that in our student side as well, just so we can confirm that functionality. So we have a student here who is not registered to any campus yet. They have an email and a GPA, but unfortunately we are going to get rid of them, and there they go. And now maybe we want to add a student. So we have a form here. We want to add, we'll just add myself as a student. And if we try to put an email that's not an email, click add student, it will go through, but if we look, no student has been added, and no student has been added to our database. So there is a validation here that we need an actual functioning email, or at least something that looks like a functioning email. So let's say mags21walker@gmail.com, and we're going to add her. Now, if we go back to students, now I've been added. I can click on myself. I haven't been registered yet. I don't have a GPA yet because I've just been added, but my email there is listed, and we can see here I am in the database. Great. And so let's see that in campuses as well. Add a new campus. We'll take the name of the school. School for, let's say, cooler lasers this time. 1, 2, 3, pew, pew, lane. And we're going to put a couple pews, because that's all that the laser school does, is pew, pew, pews. And we'll add this new campus. And now when we click on campuses, there is our school for cooler lasers. We can see that it has been added to our database, maybe. School for cooler lasers, and we can see no students registered yet. So we get a nice little message too that there's no students if there are no students registered. So we know it's not an error on the page, it's just a blank student list. We can see, oh, there's just no students at that school. And so let's just quickly look at where that is in our code, and that may be the last thing that we were looking at. Let's look at our campus list. Oh, so we'll look at our single campus view now. So on our single campus view, we're, oh, I'm sorry, it is in our campus list. So here we go. In our campus list, we have our link to add new campuses, and then we click on add new campuses, and then we go to our form. And so our campus form looks like this. It is going to take a sort of 3 different inputs, right? A name input, an address input, and a description input. And then it has a submit button that will add the new campus. And so on submit, we will call this.handle.submit, which is up here. And that's going to take this.props.insert campus, which is down here, given to us again through our props. Insert campus is just a function that dispatches add campus with the campus that we are going to add. And we can see up here that the name is going to be this.state.name. Address is coming from the state, and the description is coming from the state. And so in this case, the state is actually being held locally, not in our store. And so whenever we are updating, so if we're updating, putting something in our input, our handle change event is going to be called, and it's just going to continue to update the state as we change things. So this .setState is going to just be the event.target.value, and that's going to update the name here. So we can see that happen actually in our Chrome DevTools, which is kind of fun. We can start typing, and we can, oh, I'm sorry. Well, If we console logged, we would be able to see that, but I won't do that. But as we're typing, the state is updating, and we know that that's the case because when we fill in our full form and then we actually submit it, we are getting the correct name, address, and description. And so again, on our submit, we're just taking what the current state is, and we are using that, and we're putting all that in an object, and we are calling insert campus. And insert campus will dispatch add campus, which again, we can look at our action creator for add campus. And in this case, we're doing an axios.post request, again, to our API/campuses, because we know we want to add that to the database. And so that's probably most of what we need to look at here. So I'll just wrap it up in saying that, what else can we look at? Yeah, I think that's just about all the functionality. So Redux was used in order to maintain the state of our components other than our forms. We know that forms, it's easier to keep those states on sort of a local state since we don't need access to the changing inputs on our global state. React was used on our different components, so we can kind of separate out our different components that are going to be rendered. And then on the back end, we have a number of different routes that are able to pull from our database, post to our database, and yeah, and that's really it. So I will wrap it up there. Thanks for looking at the Margaret Hamilton Academy of JavaScript.